Welcome to Disparate Worlds, where an irresistible force meets an immovable object. In case you forgot, I'm Mox, and that guy over there, that's Sechari, and we are comparing and contrasting the worlds of Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, and Ashes of Creation.
Yes, indeed, that we are doing, Mr. Mox. I want to say welcome to our friends, welcome back to Disparate Worlds, where you could try preparations A through G. Preparation H may get rid of us, but I think other than that, we're just going to stick around. But we flare up every now and then. We go away for 6 months and we flare up again. And
Right. Like athlete's foot.
Right. Yeah, like athlete's foot. That's exactly what I had in mind. Not something else. It's good to see folks. I know it's been a minute, right?
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah. Well, we see each other we have lunch and stuff, but our viewers, our poor viewers,
it's not often enough, but probably more than the viewers see us.
Right? Yeah, we've neglected them, and I try. So let me tell everybody, I tried to talk Mox into an idea for like, hey, let's punish ourselves during this episode. We should wear our pants on our head, but he didn't want to play ball.
I did not want to play ball.
Probably for good reason.
Yeah, and you know it's funny, like we actually are missed because I got a text yesterday from one of our mutual friends saying, "Hey, where is your newest episode? Your fans are demanding some content." I'm like, it's funny you should say that because we actually are and have planned. This isn't like you aren't guilting me into it because we already have guilted ourselves into it.
Right, exactly. We feel terrible. We just want everyone to know that we felt terrible enough, and we're not saying let them eat cake, right? As you know, we feel our friends, their pains.
Right. You're on like a low sugar diet, so you can't tell them to eat cake. You need to be like eat some like I don't know, like rice cakes or something, right?
Yeah, it tastes like foam. Rice cakes taste like foam. We'll touch in a moment on what we've been doing with our time the last, what is it, 6 months, 7, 8 months?
It's been too long.
It has been incredible.
We deserve all the hate that our fans want to bring us, as long as they watch our terrible content.
Right, exactly. We want you to comment and tell us how disappointed you are. Do that. Just show up and tell us and vent on us.
By spreading your hate.
Right, exactly. Right, dislike all our videos. It's great. Just as long as you interact and give us some data, it'll be
right.
Cool. So we'll touch in a moment more on a little bit on that, right? And then we also want to cover in this episode Pantheon's recent producers newsletter updates. Now they've had 2 or 3 over the course of the summer. We'll kind of touch on all of them, but July and August primarily, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And on the announcements that have come with those, especially in the August ones. So we'll get on that in a moment.
All right.
So why we have not been on? Do we care to give our poor listeners a little bit of an update?
I mean, it's just life, and unfortunately, while Disparate Worlds is a priority to us, like there are other things that will usurp that time, and Sechari has like literally like a basketball team's worth of kids in this house, so like that
is how it feels for sure.
On a daily basis, so it's it's a lot. I don't have quite as much stuff going on, but still things come up, things get in the way. So apologies.
Yeah. I mean, what happens is I think there's a part of it though where the content isn't quite so inspiring, and when the content isn't quite so inspiring, we think, what we'll do is we'll wait till next time, right? We'll wait. Right. It's fine. If we miss this month, it's not that big. It's the news wasn't that big a deal. Well, if we aren't in the momentum of it, the next thing you know, it's been like 6 months, and now we're having these conversations with folks trying to explain why we haven't been on. So I think maybe that's part of it. Now I'm not going to try to blame the studios because the blame is on us. I imagine we could have put something out, but when I'm feeling less inspired about what they've been sharing, it's when this kind of thing tends to happen. So
right,
because I noticed
we need to push for Joppa and Steven to do what Elon and what's they were going to have like an MMA fight. We need to push for them to have like
something that we
some
can
wrestling competition or a chess match against each other. Like that would be inspiring content.
Well, we need to do that in February, right? Because what happens is that at the end of the year, things deflate. We take a little bit of time off in February. January, February is really when I think it happens to us. I think we've been taken out 2 times in a row now already in February. So But we do actually have some really cool, exciting things coming along. You already recognize that the frames are different, right? I've been kind of doing some major setup the last couple of weeks, really getting us as reframed for a for a future, right? Where you're going to start seeing some cool things coming your way. So one of them is going to be shorts. I know that YouTube has done shorts for a long time. Every other respective deal has its version. Right. So you'll see us on TikTok and on Instagram. We're getting set up for all of that to essentially take shorts of the show and put them out there as well.
Right. Part of this also, one of the things, in our previous iterations, we would record, each record our own video. I would then send it over to Sechari, and then he would spend the next however long doing post-production.
16 hours.
That however long, he says 16 hours, but over the course of like 4 days, because again, he's an adult male with lots of kids in the house.
Teenagers,
and a job.
Teenagers, baby. Oh yeah, no kidding.
So, so it was cumbersome on him. So it was difficult for him. So we have retooled the actual way we record the episodes in order to streamline some of that. Actually, quite a bit of that post-production requirements. So you may notice some differences there, and there may be some sacrifice of quality.
No, none. No sacrifice of quality.
Zero.
The quality is even better. Right. Tell him that. Tell him that.
Even better? I stand corrected. Wait, can we go back in time? Okay. So,
exactly. Edit that out.
Shouldn't notice any degradation of quality, but should notice a better cadence of release. So, for example, like we're recording on a Saturday, this won't come out like next Saturday. It will come out, in the next day or so.
Yeah, totally. So we're excited about that is what we're saying.
Yeah.
And then also, so also some changes to the show, at least to our schedule, right? We realized that our dynamic together is really what keeps a lot of us going. And we did some experimentation with solo content, right? Here's briefs. And honestly, I think that we play better together. So what we've done is kind of take a step back. What we're going to do is get momentum back again, doing our actual collaborative content. So this show is what is most important. The briefs are kind of on pause, but if we have something to show, to share each individually, we will definitely say something, throw one out there. Not a problem with that at all. But at least for now, I think maybe holding off on the live streams, getting some content, some momentum back again, and then we'll go on from there. So,
and you should have noticed some new intro music. Let us know in the comments what you think about that. If you like the new sound, or if you prefer the previous iteration.
Yes, because nobody part of that's trying to not get copyright dings. We've been able to.
Valid point.
So anyway, good things.
So we're gonna be on TikTok. We're gonna be on Instagram coming up in the near future.
And Reddit even.
What? You made a subreddit? Did you make a subreddit?
I didn't. No, I just thought I'd throw a Reddit out there because you love Reddit so much. I thought that I would.
Don't you dare! It is a cesspool. All right, enough about our lives and such. Tell us about what's going on in Ash's news.
Okay, yes, Ash's news. This is kind of a minor thing, really, to bring up. We wanted to just kind of
dwarven minor.
Well, dwarven minor, yeah, indeed. It's really the only thing worth mentioning is the None Forgotten, right, is really out there. It's the set that they've had for a minute, and I think it terminates on September 13th. I'll switch to the next one. This one's all right. I'm not sure what you think of it, Mox.
I like the dwarven armor. I think it's kind of cool. It seems very on point.
The flaming skull of unrest.
What's that?
The flaming skull of unrest. What are you supposed to do with that?
I don't know. Is it a pet?
I have no idea.
Is it going to follow you around?
That would be great. Right. I'd be okay with it. So, all right. So you're talking about the Tomb Warden's regalia, right? The dwarven armor.
Is that what that is? Yeah.
That's what I'm calling it. Yeah.
I like that. Very, very on point for dwarves, I think.
Yeah, very much so. And I love that Ash's logos on there.
It's just enough. Like sometimes some of their armors have been too much. Right. I like this. So
yeah. The rest of it, to me, is kind of a ho-hum. All right. Forge of Remembrance looks pretty cool. I do like that you actually have Ash's logo. The Phoenix logo is making its way into some of the art. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is neat.
So
I did not realize that. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
It's like all over there. Like I didn't even realize that it's on top of the forge. It's on the on the chain. It's on their on their tabards. Like very cool.
So yeah.
Yep, there it is.
Okay. So that again, that's out. Yeah, we figure we touch on the art. But so what we'll do is we've got a lot more Ashes coverage coming your way. We're actually going to shift that to episode 46. We'll do an Ashes deal. They did their recent live stream. That was on August 31st on a Friday, right? So
it was
Thursday,
a 3-hour stream. So
it was
or actually, I guess the actual stream itself was like 2 hours with an hour lead-in. So, but it still was a 2-hour stream. So it needs its own episode. It's not like we can, cover that in a succinct manner with the other content.
As if we're ever succinct, right? I'm not even succinct saying words, so never mind. I got episodes. Goodness me. So, okay.
Yeah.
So that's really the news that we want to touch on again. More to it, but really the meat and potatoes that we really want to touch on this episode is the producers' newsletters over the summer.
Right. So let's see. You had some things you wanted to say about June's newsletter. I didn't think June's newsletter at this point was worth mentioning. You wanted to bash on the studio for this. So
No, so I'm not going to bash on the studio.
Give you the floor, sir.
I'm not going to bash on the studio, but I am going to, when you look at the June producers newsletter and then the July producers newsletter and then the August producers newsletter, there's a theme that comes up, and that's kind of what I wanted to me, June was completely uninteresting. I'll give it to you. I fully agree. June had nothing to it, really. So, right. I mean, just in case anybody's wondering, June was all about, hey, we're going to retweak our content release, right? Right now we've been doing all of these long live streams. It's too long. There's 2 of them a month. We're going to scale that back. Parting the Veil's still going to come out, but it's going to be several short videos. Stuff's going straight to YouTube instead, right? Instead of all these long streams, what we'll do is YouTube content essentially, which I'm okay with. It allows me to see it when I see it as opposed to having to be there live. I'm not that
Dedicating an hour of time to just watch something is a challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah, so, and planning around it, right? Absolutely. So I'm all for that. But what happens is that and then when you measure that against other things that are going on, I think that there's a spirit of reframing going on at the studio right now, where they're kind of taking 10 steps back in order to take 12 steps forward. At least that's how I feel, right? Like in every which way, not just and we'll talk some about the announcements here for August, but I think it's happening in every way, including the community outreach aspect, right, of it.
I would agree, but I don't think it's as bad as their previous back steps, like Project Fairfield. That was like, whatever it was, like 18 months of nothing. Right. In essence. So, yes, they did take some steps back.
Do we want to outline what those were? Because I know not everybody has seen the August newsletter. Sure.
All right. Well, yeah. When we get to it, I guess we can discuss it. So they're reframing they are also retooling their content promotion, just like we are. So we can't fault them too much for that.
No, we can't. They make more progress than we do. That's for certain.
So going forward, we'll see some shorter content and probably more frequent if they're going to be doing shorter. I'd assume that we'll see a few a month. So that was June. July brought the announcement of the 24/7 testing, that they are moving from testing once a month for 24 hours to a persistent updating mode. And I have to say mode because that's kind of the words that they used in their, where's my copy of the newsletter? 24/7 play mode. So it is and again, I have to be careful because of NDA. It is still Pantheon, but it is Pantheon presented in a different way in order for them to capture more data.
Yeah.
So, and allow for replayability, and that's right there's the issue, because even throughout all these monthly testings, the issue they have is they've seen a reduction in like from the start of a test session to the end of the test session, how many people were playing it, which makes, I mean, to a degree that makes sense, but I think it's a drastic drop off over the course of that 24 hours.
I mean, I did that in Ashes Alpha 1, right? I played it until I was like, okay, I've done all of the content I can juice out of this thing. Now it's just grinding for a level for no reason.
Right, exactly.
I ducked out, right?
It's very much the same thing in this, in these 24-hour sessions. So, and I'm sure they're also seeing a drop off from session to session of players, because
do you think that's indicative, though, maybe the fact that they're testing too much? That players are like, okay, I've been here, I've done that, I've seen that.
Yeah, I think that could be the issue. Like maybe monthly testing as it was not the right thing to do, because they don't have a ton of zones available. So, how many times do you want to do the same thing? It's like playing a single player game.
Right.
Like I'll play a single player game, like let's say Assassin's Creed. I think I've played through Assassin's Creed a couple times.
Whichever
like not
one
100%,
you're referring to.
I played the story through a couple times, just to see the variations, and so that where there are no variations, where you're just going and
rehashing.
I need to go kill these frogs and kill these snakes, and then go and kill these bandits and all. There is no variety, so it loses its luster very quickly.
Right, so there's a bit of a danger, right? In if you over test, then a large part of your audience that has been very excited, that's been in on the testing, it's old hat to them by the time you actually launch. So you've got to do something new at launch for sure.
Right.
That's one thing.
So I can't say much about it. The play mode that they talked about, that this is going to be, will allow for replayability. It will allow for me to want to say, let me go in there and play. Maybe play daily for a couple hours every day, or play, every few days for a couple hours. It's there, and the incentive in the testing that they've presented to us, the VIPs, they had a Q&A with us to kind of go over their plans. It does seem like it's going to be replayable. Time will tell, I guess.
Well, so we have to define what that replayability is, right? Would it be if me and a team go into some dungeon, right? But what we're able to replay is the aspects of a dungeon that vary, right? Like the different mechanics, right, that show up, on a dynamic kind of system.
Right, like for example, the aspects of the mobs will change, and so the dungeon itself will inherently change, and they're incentivizing you to go back in and accomplish things.
Right. Yeah, I think if maybe they offered some kind of reward, right? Like, okay, if you do enough of this, X hours of this or something like that, then you get something in game in the live thing at the end. Maybe you incentivize
they didn't mention
people.
That's a good thing to bring up. Like well,
because a concern to me would be like I don't, if they're finding that there's a drop off because maybe they're testing too much. 24/7 testing is not a solution. It's more of the problem. You know what I'm saying? You usually make the testing a little more scarce in order to get people to show up in more consistency.
Right.
And
I think given the way that they're going to be doing it, it's just not straight. You're logging into the world. There is there's an aspect to it that makes it more interesting and more compelling. I think that will and again, I can't say too much. Obviously, hopefully from the information newsletter, they are going to let us get in first before they make their public announcements of kind of what's going on. Like kind of get the feel for what the feedback the VIPs give. I believe is what I said here. It was somewhere in here that they would update once the testers got in.
Right. And maybe that's good, right? Give them actually a few hours or a couple days or something just to get their toes in the water. And that way, at least you kind of can report on the reception of the thing. Well, it looks like it's going well, right? Or whatever.
Exactly.
Maybe that, so that's good. All right. So that brings us into August's producers newsletter. Do you want to let us know what was in that?
Oh yeah, so that was the big bombshell. Like actually, the like bigger than the 24/7 testing is that they're changing their art like across the board, huge changes to a painterly style is what Joppa calls it, or painted look. And there's some pictures, and I'm sure we'll be sharing them here. And I like it. I don't think it's bad. I like there definitely were some mixed reactions in like when this was shown to the VIPs.
It's a little more cartoony, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I wish in this producer's newsletter they had shared more. They needed to share more pictures, but anyway.
Yeah, it's coming. More is coming.
No doubt.
In between the Pantheon's original style and WoW, like doesn't go as far as WoW, which is good.
Right.
So
you know what I would say to this?
Again, with a purpose.
You know what I would say to this? What this reminds me of? EverQuest Next. That's what this reminds me of. Right? EverQuest Next was a little bit more cartoony, but not as cartoony, I would say, as WoW was, right? That's what I think of that. So.
Yeah. So the purpose of all this is that they are, number one, they're converting to 100% their own graphics. They were using, I guess,
Unity assets
or library Unity assets, beforehand. So they're switching, number one, to their own assets 100%. They're able to maintain this going forward, given the size of their studio, and it mitigates a lot of the cost, the expense of the previous art style. So it is a more sustainable model. So, yes, it's going to be shocking to some. I can't help that. I like it, and it's not my favorite, but I don't hate it. I'll say that.
Well, so one of the things that, like, they wanted to be more popular, right? One of the things that they've said here, and I'm going to have this on screen while we're chatting, right, is marketability, right?
Yeah.
They mentioned that we routinely receive from the public feedback about how the game looks old or unappealing. That's their words. So they acknowledge that the public has said, hey, the old, now granted Unity assets, right? Things that but it is definitely kind of old things that have been in the engine for a long time that other people have probably used, right? That's part of it. So a new art style definitely changes the direction on that.
Right.
I think that's good, right? They need to address some of that, but the new thing then needs to be appealing, I would say, right? So there is some burden, even though, and performance was another aspect of this as well, right? Like they were saying that the art that they currently have in that engine is just not very performant, even on the beefiest of machines. And that's going to be a problem because you do all the work and get all this game out the door, and then if the performance is bad, then it's going to be a disaster for the game. So
we've seen lots of games, even Baldur's Gate it was having performance issues. So I agree with that. Like address it early, not that this is early, but address it before
it only gets worse.
Sure,
the longer you leave it. Yeah, so you have to go back. At the same time, you have to go back, right? So now the good thing is that I imagine all of the framing that they've done, all of the animations that they've done, all of that stays in place. They just pull the skin off and put this new skin on.
Yeah, that's
right.
My understanding
it's not a complete restart, and I imagine there's probably some reaction where folks think it's much more of a restart than it would be.
Yeah.
It is definitely some steps back, right? There is definitely a reframing and a lot of reinvention that needs to happen in some respects, but not nearly as much maybe as people might think.
In the Q&A with the VIPs, Joppa was asked like directly how much time was lost in doing this, and it's less than you would think. I can't that's all NDA stuff, but it is much less than what you are probably assuming their lost time is.
Yeah.
And assuming he's being honest, and I don't think he has any reason to lie about it. It's so time was lost, but I think going forward, the time gained will more than offset that, and probably maybe already has offset that lost time.
Well, even then,
and that includes all of the retooling to go to 24/7 testing too. That's not just the art. That's like changing this direction to a persistent testing, which in the grand scheme of things, given that it's been 783 days since the last Ashes
you just had to slip that in there, right?
I think it's overall it will be a net plus, but you see the negativity or negative responses, like Sechari said, that they're taking steps back to go forward.
Honestly, this is the best time for this to have happened, right? Or for it to be happening, because we already knew, and this is really before we began our hiatus, right? They were going to scale up the art. Now was the time to start hiring those resources and to invest in that. And that was the next push, was going to be the art. Well, this is what's happening, right? You're seeing a push in the art, and they're doing some stuff to make sure that
their artists probably came to them and said, "Look, this isn't sustainable. What can we do?" And maybe given that art wasn't a focus, that they didn't realize that how much it was holding them back.
Right. So this is great. I mean, like, in my opinion, this is stuff you will, when you are in software development, stumble across problems, right? But I kind of zooming out for a second, I think that what I perceive between June and July and August is kind of like we are working on like all of our approaches, including the social media aspect of things, right? The releases that we have to people, what we're doing isn't very effective. It's not very efficient. We need to make it more efficient. We need to, so I just, to me, was like a theme that was emerging.
Yeah, that's true.
Stuff. So.
And we also noticed that the road to alpha is missing from these newsletters as well. It
disappeared in August, yeah.
Right. So could be that their focus has been 24/7, so they didn't make much progress on the road to alpha because they are getting ready for this for this testing. I think you'll see lots more progress because we're going to be able to play iterative changes very, very quickly.
Right.
Going forward.
Right. So it's one of the things as well, I want to throw out there as well, since I work in software development, is the notion of what happens, right? Ideally, what you want, and this isn't a perfect world, but the real world is very different, right? You do the governance and the design on the front end. Here's what we're going to do. You get all that set, and then you build it. Right. So, and you take the best shot you can, given what you come up with a plan, you figure it all out, and then you begin to build it. Well, months or years down the road, as you're proceeding through, there may be some change or some design thing, or you come up with a tool, or you learn something, or you introduce something to whatever. There's some change or, maturing that happens as you're going that you implement. Well, this is great. Right. This is going to make everything better going forward. But then you look back at what you've been building over the last few years, and you realize that you've accumulated some technical debt. There's, hey, we've set something that's going to make us faster, but we now need to go back and address what we've already built. That happens in software development frequently, right? So even though you're making progress, sometimes you have to go back and pull the an old crumbling foundation, which at the beginning was the best foundation you had. Right, you have to pull that out and sometimes lay a new foundation, and it means that you stop the work on the walls and on the roof in the meanwhile in order to get that in place. But in order for the walls on the roof not to collapse later, you've got to go back and do this. Right now, obviously, you want to, at the end of the day, you want to deliver that house, you want to get it finished, but you're going to deliver a terrible product if you don't go back and do that, right? So there's a balance that has to happen, but you're trying to make progress, but you're not trying to go back and reinvent too much. And really, what you are needing to do is at some point deliver what you had intended to. Without too much of that reinvention. So all of that to say, really, this is more of an art than it is a science, right? It's not something like, here's a design notes, here's exactly what we're going to go build, and then you go build it. It's much messier than that. And I think that's, from my world in software development, that's something I'm very familiar with. And I think that's probably worth throwing in here. I know gaming is probably intensely more complicated than that, because not only is it software, it's the graphics and the art, right? And servers and
the story and the quests and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not and I think the Pantheon team, right, has also experienced loss. losing people is something that they've dealt with that has had a tremendous impact on things, and so they're I think that's worth throwing in there as well. That has an impact, right? It has an impact on your visionaries and on your staffing and the skills you have on your team to be able to deliver certain things, right? It's all part of that journey.
So all in all, I'm looking forward to the autumn season with Pantheon. Looking forward to getting in with the 24/7 testing and see how it goes from there.
Indeed.
So, all right. So don't forget to check us out on our socials: Facebook.com/Disparate Worlds, on the X app, formerly known as Twitter.
All right.
I know I still call it Twitter. I still call it tweeting. I don't call it posting.
I know it's going to be. Yeah, who can get into that? That's weird.
We are at Disparate Worlds. TikTok, we are Disparate Worlds. Instagram has to be different. We are Disparate_Worlds. And also check out our website. It's in the description, and as is a link to our Discord. Please join us there.
Absolutely. All right. You know how we are. That's going to be it for us for this episode. We would, give us a like and subscribe if you can. Share this video. That would be very helpful, just to kind of help us build momentum again. Or if you want, hold off for an episode or two just to make sure we're doing this for a while.
Right.
And then do it. So we would appreciate that. Yeah. So that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Definitely, follow us in all of these different things and help us build that momentum. The notification bell as well. Let me mention that, because that's something, if you care to keep up with the new episodes that we are releasing. Take care of yourselves. Remember always to be immovable in your principles and irresistible in your passion.